welcome to the show.
Is that Kanye West?
Yeah. I really think, hold on, who's this beat by? I think this beat is, I ain't gonna say that. Don't quote me, boy, because I ain't
Probably
saying
Justice League.
Probably
Justice League. Mic check, mic check, mic check. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Infusion Breakdown Show. As always, it's your boy Joshua Freeman. To my left, I got Mr. Brian Carey. To my right, I got Mr. Desmond Tillman. How you guys doing?
Excellent, sir.
Guys good? You gonna win that chili contest?
Oh, hell yeah. I got the peppers doing their thing in the bowl right now. I got to go pick up the crock pot from the store, but all I need is 4 hours.
All right. Hopefully your coworkers view this and see what they say. But remember, the timestamps in the description below. Go down there, see what you want to watch, click on it, okay? But the question we have for today on the docket...
Bro, stop saying that.
Nah, don't stop the docket.
Does everything happen for a reason? What do you guys think? Remember, comment below, let us know, okay?
I think this is a topic that Brian heavily favors, so I'll let him go with him first.
I didn't pick the question, though.
No, I think the reason why I say that, though, is like, you know, you have like a...
Religious background?
Yeah, you have a strong religious background. I want to hear what you have to say first.
I don't think everything happens for a reason. So, I believe that the human mind is a very powerful thing. Like, we can convince ourselves of anything to fit a given narrative that we have in our heads. And that shapes the way we see things, our perspective, our paradigm. And so, using that regular events through our lives, we can say, oh, well, this was supposed to happen because we have a projected endpoint. And then also, on the topic of things happening for a reason, I don't necessarily... That was something that was really heavily tied into like our free will versus predetermination discussion.
Exactly, yeah.
Like we really divulged really deep into that. I wish it was there. But that's still scheduled. We're going to do a reshoot for you.
I'm pretty sure it's coming up soon, so get ready, everyone.
Hopefully this weekend.
Put it on your docket.
Yeah, put it on the docket.
Exactly.
We'll send you a Microsoft Outlook appointment.
Google invite.
You said what?
We'll send you a
Google Calendar.
We'll put it in your Google Calendar.
But short response, I agree with Brian. No, I don't believe everything happens for a reason. Things happen.
And furthermore, a wise person can turn any negative experience or any positive experience, any experience in general, they can turn it into a learning experience. Mm-hmm. And so they can use that to build themselves up and elevate themselves and push them forward. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that had to occur. It's just making the best out of a given situation. That's something that you have to do. It's in your best interest for you to do in life. You don't necessarily have to, like I was getting ready to say. Mm-hmm. But it's just it's an adaptation.
Yeah, I agree though. Yeah, everything doesn't happen for a reason. You don't agree with what he said?
No, I want y'all to like break that down a little more. I think it's like a vague answer.
What is?
Like, I get your response as far as like any wise person or any person who knows their ability to, you know, contort their emotions and change how they view things based off of certain situations. They can, you know, make themselves believe that things do happen for a reason and make positives out of negatives. But I want to kind of like get like more into that itself, because I feel like I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like I don't want to say like everything happens for a reason in the sense of, you know, say somebody has a car wreck and they are a fatality of that car wreck. Like that wasn't meant to happen, but it happened. Like that didn't happen. Like, you know, it wasn't predetermined. It wasn't written to, you know, take a Nas. Come on, man, you too cool, man. You got your Cassius Clay hoodie on, and you just a different person today.
I mean,
that's the biggest Nas fan at this table too. Like, he don't even. But I don't know. I guess my answer would be.
Are you saying things do happen?
I'm gonna say things do happen for a reason, but I'm gonna say it for the same exact reason that you say it doesn't happen for a reason. Because I think things need to happen for a reason, or things have to happen to bring light to what may be taken for granted, and then what you might be neglecting. Like, some people do need to hit rock bottom. They need to do the things that result in them hitting rock bottom to learn that lesson. Like, there are people that are going to, you know, continuously take advantage of, like, the whole luck aspect. You know, they feel that they're lucky, or, you know, luck is on their side, or whatever it may be. They have their you know, grandmother's blessings, and they're going to keep pushing it until something happens. And what happens needs to happen for a reason that they can finally learn from their mistake. Because some people are going to continuously make decisions, and they're going to get away, and they know that what they're doing might be neglectful, not only to themselves, but people around them, or, you know, family members, loved ones, whatever it may be. But they're never going to truly learn until a result requires immediate. And I think this could go towards our, you know, our change conversation, where we're like what constitutes change for a person, where it actually results in a change. Like, that, what A needed to happen, so B could be the realization and C can be the change type thing. So I'm going to say certain things do need to happen, because if you're just going through life and it's like, you know, things are happening and you're not kind of, you know, looking for the purpose and why it's happening, then you're never going to truly cherish what happened. So you, like, in the moment, it seems kind of like, you know, as you're looking at it, or as you're watching it, or, you know, trying to break down what I'm saying, like, it might not make sense. But then think about how many things that you've gone through in life that you needed to go through to make your character better than what it was, you know, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or even 2 weeks ago, to, you know, cause you to propel and be a better person. Like, that stuff has to happen, and it happened for a reason. Like, you know, I know that, you know, it's easy to tie religion, it's easy to tie astrology, or whatever you choose to believe into it. But I think that, you know, people can create their own outcomes, and some things do need to happen just so they can, you know, learn their mistakes, or learn what works for them, and then learn what doesn't work for them.
So is that a necessity or is it an outcome?
As far as
the given event occurring for the person to make that change in their life? Because the way I see it is making the best of a situation. Like, it's not absolutely necessary for some things to happen. Like your example of death. So the biggest example I could think of was, you guys remember the riverboat accident? Down like Missouri, Mississippi, one of those states, when they were out on the river and they weren't supposed to be. The captain knew that there was a storm coming, right?
Oh yeah, I heard.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
And the family
I
lost,
believe
like,
you actually said this in another episode. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Desmond wasn't here.
Yeah, I think
So
it was
like 9 people that died. It was all from one family. Children, like 2 years old, 3 years old, old folks. They died. 9 members of that family died. And so when it comes to, like, things happening for a reason, I can't sit here objectively and say that a higher power said that those people needed to die that day. Like, they were that was their fate. It just didn't add up to me. And so I think there's a very careful distinction you have to make between the necessity of something happening as it being predetermined, and then also the necessity as it is isolated to an individual's change. Because as an event happens to you, you can say, well, as a consequence of that happening, I made this change. But did it really need to happen? I don't think so.
Do you believe that happened for a reason, that accident happened? Like, there was a reason for that?
I mean, the humility in me wants to say, like, no, but I mean, if you think about it, like, the harsh reality of everything is that when accidents like that happen, it causes change.
It elicits a response.
Yeah. So
always,
I think 9 times out of 10, it requires a response. The response might not be what you think it should be, but it issues a response.
Okay. What about, I'm thinking of another example, like mass shootings. What's the reasons for that happening? Like, you talking about, like, new laws? Because it doesn't seem like there's any progress that actually happens because of that. So is there a reason?
I don't think you can necessarily, like, say new laws, because we understand why laws aren't being passed. So, you know, when your lawmakers are, like, funded by, you know, one of the most powerful bodies in America, with it being the NRA, like, you're not going to get laws passed. Like, that's just common sense at this point. Like, that's the reason why, you know, certain laws are not being passed, because, I mean, lobbyists have lawmakers in their pockets, and
Yeah, but in that situation, what would be the reasoning? What would be the reasoning for those mass shootings, and what would be what you were talking about? Since it happens for a reason, what would be the reasoning? What do you think?
the reasoning as far as why the person did it, or the reasoning as far as the response?
As far as the response,
I mean, I think it brings light to a part of America that a lot of people neglect.
but is there actually progress that happens because of it though?
I don't think it's
Because people will get more guns. So they were like,
I don't think it's. I'm not looking at it from that perspective as far as guns. I think it sparks a conversation. Like, what direction are we really, moving forward as a population? Like, are we really becoming, people who can't even go out and enjoy the time based off of fear and anxiety that, the next mass shooting might happen in your city? Like, I think it has sparked a debate, and it's sparked, some social angst and anxiety, but, it's, I mean...
Is that progress, though? Just because it's sparking debate?
I don't think it necessarily, it is progress, like,
Because
conversation...
Because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some type of progress.
But it's progress. The starting of a conversation is progress, whether you...
Okay.
Because think about it like this. It could happen, and people could go about their merry way, and it can just continue to happen and happen and happen. And I mean, granted, it is happening at a high rate, even though it's not always...
Even though we're talking about it?
Yeah. It's happening at a high rate, even though, like, it's not always broadcasted. But I mean, you're bringing light to a situation, why these people feel this way. And I mean, it doesn't help that, like, majority of what, American politics and American economics and all that is just, based off like a divide and conquer type setup. But I mean, some people do feel disenfranchised, even though their basis, lacks no real logic, but they feel disenfranchised. And I mean, they do that stuff to be heard. I mean, committing acts of terror and not trying to justify it at all, like, that's been a political agenda. Like, they're somebody's trying to be heard. They're doing it, for a reason, to get a certain response. Mm-hmm. So even though the lives lost is not a necessity, you also have to look at the other side of the coin, whether it be as dark as, something that's going to lead you down the road to where you're, really questioning society's morals, this, that, and the third. But the other side of the story is still there. We just choose not to necessarily acknowledge it. Like, they're doing what they're doing because they feel they have, like, a valid reason, and they're trying to spark some sort of change. But the reason has no logic, and the reason has no basis. So it kind of just seems to us, unnecessary killings. I mean, and I'm not just going to even say seems. To us, it is unnecessary killings. It doesn't need to happen.
Internally, it makes sense to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the conversation we had before, like, when the Dallas shooting happened, like, not justifying anybody's, decisions to do things, but there's still that side of the story that we don't, really ever shine light on, because the act itself is just so disgusting to where it just is, like, unfathomable and something that you don't even feel the need to break down.
But how did that person arrive at the conclusion?
Exactly.
Was it something? I guess in recent times we have started discussing that more often.
Yeah.
A little
I mean,
more.
you literally have to, because if you don't, it's just going to get worse until it gets to a point to where these people that are considered, or that are constantly, doing these mass killings, these mass shootings, have developed almost like a cult following, to where then people are looking at it as like, these people are doing what they can do because they firmly believe in what they believe in. And if I start to think like that, then I start to, well, what does this person believe in? And then I go, searching for their social medias, what type of things they're doing on the dark web. And then I become interested in what they're, believing and what they're reading and doing all this stuff. And then it just creates like a trickle-down effect to where the next person reads it and they're converted, then the next person reads it and they're converted. Like, you're going to get that regardless by bringing it to light, but by bringing it to, like, it sparks the conversation to where you can kind of start learning what you need to address, not only within, but then with younger generations, to, like, try and prevent it, because you can't prevent something that you don't know. You can't prevent something that you're ignorant to.
Okay. I do think you, in a way, do give people too much credit by thinking they do go through all those steps of...
I don't think I give people too much credit. I just think that I understand what human capacity is, and I feel like a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit for what they're capable of doing. Like, I just understand human capabilities.
Yeah, I know they're capable. I just don't feel they don't do that. I just don't feel they don't do what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't feel like
not everybody, but
yeah, I know. I don't think I give them too much credit. I think I just, know that why they're not doing what they're doing is because they choose to handicap themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, I don't necessarily like try to apply my logic to everyone. I try to, apply it to the basis of what humankind is able to do.
So you're basically choosing both sides. You're like, yes, everything happens for a reason, but at the same time it doesn't. That's
No,
what
I didn't choose both sides. I just said everything happens for a reason, and I explained why.
Well, you can simplify it and say yes. If you want to say, like, if there was a logical path that you concluded to make a choice. But I think by the initial question, does everything happen for a reason, there's some kind of implication of something greater at hand versus just the individual acting on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So
you agree? Oh, I'm sorry, keep on.
There was actually while you guys were discussing that, and I was just sitting there listening, I was contemplating the idea, how come when it comes to when things happen for a reason, we always put a negative connotation on them, like negative events that happen in our lives. And so what are you guys thoughts on that? I'll tell you what I came to a conclusion afterwards, but I'm more interested in what you guys have to say.
No, I think we always say that the negative things happen for a reason because they might bring forth the realization or the need of change, or it's like I think it has a lot to do with just how society has like implicated us as far as how we view ourselves. Like, we kind of viewing our flaws have become like almost like a societal norm now. And so when we're constantly looking at the negatives, a big negative that forces us to change is going to have like more, I guess, it's going to have more like of a landmark in your timeline of life than something that, is like a big change, because a big change associated with like, say like a promotion or something that, brings joy. Like, I can say till I'm blue in the face that being a father changed me. Like, becoming a dad was something good that changed me, but the failures of being a dad is what provoked me to be the better dad. So I think like being the parent itself it provokes change, but it's not like life-changing change. Seeing like the negatives and seeing like potential even bigger negative outcomes is what causes you to say, all right, I see where I'm going, I see what I've done, I see how, instrumental it could be into my own demise. This is where I draw the line, and this is where I turn everything around and go in a better direction. Because if you're just creating like, good patterns and good positive, like you're going on your merely way, you're living life how you intended for it to be. But there had to have been some points where you drew that line and you said, all right, this is the landmark that, in my timeline that I'm going to document and say, this point moving forward, I can't allow this to happen anymore. Like, I feel like there has to be some negative, and it might not always be negative. It might just be like a realization of a flaw that, incites change. Like, I don't think anybody like really ever, and I'm not gonna say it like that because I think it does happen. I think there are people in like really positive mindsets that have been in positive mindsets, believe it or not, their whole life, and they look at other positives to influence more positives, whereas we look at like negatives to influence positives.
Yeah.
I feel like, thinking about your question now, I really think it just depends on the mindset of that person and what they've been.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people don't even think about it. Yeah. As far as think about it, they just think more about the negatives, but basically what he was saying, their mind frame. Because I would, like, you stub your toe, something like that, like, oh man, like you do this all the time. Like, oh man, I'm really unlucky. But meanwhile, the other times, you don't have to think about the time you didn't stub your toe, Mm-hmm. So it's just, you're not thinking about it. I feel a lot of people go down because they're in that negative mind frame, what he was talking about. But yeah, what do you think?
It's a coping mechanism. To help us get over things.
Yeah.
To say that, it happened for a reason. Like, you can't, there's two ways you can look at it. It's either someone else's fault or an external force, or it's your fault. And so when it's an external force, that's something that's out of your control, you could have done nothing to prevent that situation, or you had minimal role in that. Whether it's the internal one, then you're saying you take full responsibility for it. And sometimes that's really hard to live with. You have guilt. You constantly have to. You don't have to, but a lot of people ruminate and replay those scenarios over and over in their mind, thinking, well, what could I have done differently, versus just accepting it and moving on. So I do see like it's a healthy utility to it too, but at the same time, it's like you could possibly be fooling yourself.
Yeah.
And the second part to it too is like, because positive experiences, they don't drive change, and change is something that's really memorable. So if you have a winning strategy that's consistently working, you're not going to adapt it. There's no need to. Like what you're doing is working. Versus if you're doing something that's wrong, it burns you. Like it hurts. You don't like the failure. So you, in order to prevent that from happening in the future, you adapt. You move in a different direction. You diverge from that path.
Yeah.
But I think it's mostly a coping mechanism. Us trying to convince ourselves that we couldn't have acted any differently.
Yeah. You agree? Yeah. I thought you was gonna come in here and say. Well, I was waiting for you to come in here and say everything doesn't happen for a reason, because I knew that free will. What you was talking about with free will.
You know, we're gonna have that conversation at a later date, because I know I came in here like maybe a month or two ago, and I said I listened to a podcast and it kind of changed my view of free will. And I kind of, like, not to open the debate now, but I kind of said something along the lines of, I've always believed that people have free will, but when they become, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? When they become casualties of their own, like, flaws, like when they start orchestrating their own demise, they no longer have that free will.
Okay.
Because they fall into, like, cycles, and it's almost like aimlessly thinking, like you're not really thinking, like you're almost on autopilot, like you're just doing what has become, you know, natural. And as you think of what comes natural, I think of it as like a positive, but you think of what comes natural and it's like something that is, you know, so negative that like you just, and the easiest way I can think of it, man, is like easiest way I can think of it is like your negative thoughts. Like if you have free will, you'd be able to like truly control what you think about. And at times, like you're able to implicate your free will and say, no, I'm like, you're able to put in those roadblocks, and you're able to, you know, tune out what, you know, is bothering you, what negative thoughts keep coming to mind, until you build up that repetition to where like it truly doesn't bother you anymore. But I feel like the acknowledgement of free will is the stop. You don't have free will until you say stop, when you tell yourself stop. When that thing is just replaying over and over and over and over in your mind again, that's just like, it's just like something you can't control at the time. You can't control it until you tell it to stop. Like I don't know if, you know, if y'all can vouch for this, but there's just been times to where like I've had things constantly replay in my mind, and there was nothing that provoked it. It just came, like it's just something that I started thinking about. Like a lot of, and I think it could go a little bit into the conversation now, where like, you know, everything happens for a reason, and you might not see the reason until, you know, way down the line. But I feel like a lot of the negatives, like when we're beating ourselves up in that moment, we're not intentionally beating ourselves up. We didn't choose to beat ourselves up. It's just that we're casualties of decisions that we made. And so it just continuously happens until you choose to break that cycle. When you exercise your free will and you like say enough is enough, then that's when you implicate your free will. At that point, you're just a result of your own decisions.
I think, as you said, how it pertains to free will is really complicated, because the way the mind works is we're shaped by external factors, like, for example, like our upbringing, the scenarios that you experience in your life, but you also have genetic predispositions. So when you come into the realm of saying that, oh, this is where I'm going to stop these thoughts, that is you exercising your own consciousness, because you're able to regulate your thoughts. That is not it's not saying you have to perfect it, but you could perhaps at that given moment you could be more susceptible to those thoughts because something going on. But that if you were to agree with that, to me that would constitute you saying that we don't have a consciousness, like we're not able to regulate that.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. Like,
no, I know you didn't say that, but
like
continuing down that path, that's what I'll arrive to.
That we don't have a conscience?
No, that we can't control our. Okay, not
But I think it's obvious. So like,
well, it should be obvious, because you demonstrated this yourself through the conversation. It's just the ability to, you noticed the negative pattern your brain was in, and you did things to proactively change that.
like, I mean, Okay. When I kind of say things like that, it's only scratching the surface. I think when you think about, people who have said they can't control their thoughts, I think you have to bring in things like depression, anxiety, like external factors that are, prompting this influx of, negative thought and just, cycles of recounting things in your head. Like there are things that you don't have control over until you choose to have control over it. Like your depression is going to run you and drive you insane until you make the first step and you exercise the free will to address it. If you don't ever address it, then that's how you have suicide and suicide rates constantly going up. When people are not willing to address and exercise their free will that they have the power to handle, and
I still feel is that they still have free will because they don't address it though. That's what I'm looking at.
I'm not gonna say they have free will because I feel like to understand free will, you have to understand the man's ability to rationalize. If someone is a product of their negative thoughts that have happened because of external factors, they're not exercising free will. They're a product of external factors. I want to say that if you are going to exercise free will, you're going to be a product of internal decisions that you've made with your conscious mind. If you're a product of depression, which is potentially an external factor caused by external situations, then you're not exercising free will. Your free will is just something that's sitting on the dresser that you forgot when you walked out the door.
You don't think free will exists inside of that?
As far as?
Inside of having a condition such as depression or anxiety? Because your choices may be constricted.
Your free will is there, but you're not exercising it. Like, free will is always going to be there. Like, I can't look at anybody at this table and just say you're choosing to be depressed. I'm not going to look at anyone at this table or anybody in this world and say that you're choosing to be depressed. Like,
because no one wants that.
Nobody wants that. And for you to sit here and say that you're choosing to be depressed, you've exercised your free will. You've rationalized. You've looked at every single thing that comes with depression. The mood swings. Your diet isn't regulated. Your sleep isn't regulated. You constantly having suicidal thoughts. No sane person, no rational person is looking at this and saying, this is what I want for myself.
Some people do rationalize that though. Like at the point where they give up because they're tired of cycling on and off medications and going to therapy.
But that's not them necessarily rationalizing. That's them being products of external situations. They haven't truly exercised the free will that comes with, humankind. Like,
by rationalizing, I meant arriving at that conclusion after thinking about it.
Okay.
But like what you said about the free will as it pertains to like mental health, that's something that's really important too, because no one's going to get you out of that condition except for you. Like even medication, if you don't have a proper exit strategy of what you're going to do to continue after you cycle off your medication, it's not going to stick. You're going to relapse back to that condition. So you have to ultimately, your willpower has to be stronger than that condition, and you continuously train your mind effectively and reinforce those positive habits if you did pick any up.
Yeah.
So once you're off the medication, you can stick with it.
Gotcha. Okay. I understand. But we will definitely go more into that in another one though. But
hopefully this weekend.
Yeah. But what do you guys think though? Does everything happen for a reason? Remember, comment below. Let us know. We do want to hear what you guys think. Okay. So let us know. Okay. And if you're a religious person, let us know. Let us know. Okay.
No, he did not, man.
What? I mean, that's part of it. I mean, it is what it is. But we're gonna see you guys next week. Peace.
Hold on. What's the album of the week yet?
Oh yeah,
you just said it.
Oh yeah,
man.
I wasn't thinking about it.
But hey, man, the album of the week. Like we said, we always want to go with the free flowing, but album of the week. The past couple of weeks, I've been listening to a lot of Rick Ross, and I think I'm gonna take it back to 2010 and say my album of the week is Teflon Don, and that's just because lyrically, I think that's like prime Rick Ross, and then production-wise, I think every song up there hits as far as, it was well thought out, well planned, and, well articulated and then produced. So give that a listen if you haven't already. The Rick Ross catalog, that's something we only going to appreciate after you're gone. So go ahead, tune into it now.
Respect. Also, shout out to Dr. Mithu Staroni for sharing our content. Really appreciate that. Check her book out, Stress Proof.
You heard it here, folks.
Chick for the day.
We'll see you guys.
We out.
Peace.
Look, welcome to the show. Go and take a seat. Let's talk about the world while taking a sip of tea. A bunch of brothers come together. That's something we love to see. The company can't get no better. We come from running the streets, but we here now. The vibes all good. We survived. We gon' try and show the world inside the minds of some visionary brothers. We only got each other. We don't support each other. Ain't nobody gonna love us. We can talk about the violence, the silence, the Mayans, the stake that the minds and the science, defiance, living and dying and laughing and crying, pure bliss and heartache and quitting and trying. That's real from the heart, truth in the heart. So come up in the future, we just gotta play our part. Can we handle that? Let them tear us apart. Infusion breakdown show. Go and talk about your thought.